After my mom died, my dad remarried. He brought home a stepmom and a stepsister. I absolutely hated my stepmom, but I fell stupidly hard for my stepsister. But the day I finally dumped her, I said some incredibly toxic things. I thought she'd hate my guts. I never expected her to say this to me one day. I'm just a glutton for punishment. We're meant to torment each other until we die. Right before Lunar New Year, I procrastinated as long as I could, but eventually, under my dad's threats and bribes, I caved and bought a ticket home. The day I arrived, Liu Ruyan came to pick me up. It was the first time we'd seen each other since the breakup. It had been 6 months, and she had completely changed. She used to live in baggy shirts and jeans, totally laid back and chill. Now, she was wearing a pink crop top and a high-waisted black, pleated skirt. Along the edge of the skirt, there was this wavy white lace trim. She was giving major soft girl aesthetic. I awkwardly called out to her. She shot me a bitter look and snapped, "Use my name. I don't want to be your sister." I thought to myself, so we can't even be siblings after a breakup. I kept my mouth shut and drove her home in silence. While we were sitting at the dinner table waiting to eat, Liu Ruyan suddenly reached out and pulled up my sleeve. Staring at the clustered scars on my arm, she gave a bitter laugh and asked, "You really aren't afraid of pain, are you? What's the point of this?" I had no idea what to say. I grabbed my glass and took a sip to cover my panic, but I ended up choking so hard my eyes watered. I couldn't stop coughing. Talk about karma. Liu Ruyan just watched me quietly the whole time. Her eyes were full of scrutiny, like she was seeing right through my soul, leaving my pathetic state nowhere to hide. I don't know if I was just overthinking it, but I thought I caught a fleeting look of pain in her eyes. That reunion dinner had me choking on every bite. I felt like I was sitting on pins and needles. I just felt like something was totally off. It wasn't until Liu Ruyan knocked on my door that night, making zero effort to hide the dark look in her eyes, that I realized what the problem was. She hated me. She was giving off major hostile vibes. She said, "Gee Boda, you're doing pretty miserably, aren't you?" I shot back, "You're overthinking it. I'm actually doing great. My girlfriend treats me amazingly, and she loves me a lot." Liu Ruyan's eyes darkened. "You have a new girlfriend already?" she asked. She paused, then added, "Who is it? Bring her over so I can screen her for you. Your taste in women has always been trash, and you couldn't spot a red flag if it hit you." I replied in a teasing tone, "If I bring her home, that means she's meeting the parents. When I get married, sis, you'd better hook me up with a huge red envelope." Our eyes locked in a silent standoff for ages. Liu Ruyan took a step back and said, "Then let's meet outside. When are you free?" I told her, "My girlfriend is super busy. I'll check with her and let you know." I sounded cocky as hell. Whenever I was around Liu Ruyan, I was used to playing the arrogant, untouchable bad boy. But Liu Ruyan was no longer the sweet, obedient little sister she used to be. She wasn't just going to play along anymore. She let out a scoff and said coldly, "Ex-boyfriend, I can't wait to see how your new girl is any better than me." When I was a little kid, I stubbornly believed one thing: if a kid lost their mom, they'd never truly have a home again. Sesame leaves are black on both sides. A stepmom turns your own dad into a stepdad. So when I was 12, and Liu Ruyan showed up with her mom, I was completely repulsed by the two of them, even though I knew my dad would eventually someday become someone else's husband and someone else's father, and I was destined to lose everyone's attention, fading into the background like an NPC. But I didn't expect that day to come so soon. I don't remember how I learned that harsh truth. I just knew it. I also knew that Liu Ruyan was really pretty. Spoiling a little sister like her was a massive flex, and it made all my boys treat me like a total boss. Liu Ruyan was 3 years younger than me. She didn't talk much, but she was super cute and really quiet. She was a huge favorite among all our older relatives. But when it came to me, she basically never had a single day of peace. My teenage rebellion hit like a freight train. I was causing trouble 24/7. I was either helping one bro jump his romantic rival, or backing up another buddy in a turf war. My free-of-charge stepsister, Liu Ruyan, was always buzzing around me, calling me brother, brother. She was terrified I'd get hurt or end up in jail. She tailed me everywhere. I'd tell her to back off so she wouldn't get dragged into it. She'd just hit me with puppy dog eyes. And then, secretly, follow me. From a distance anyway. One time after a massive brawl, I walked home with Liu Ruyan, my face completely battered. My dad had been drinking and was pretty buzzed. The second he saw my wrecked face, his first reaction was to absolutely lose it and start beating and cursing at me. He screamed at me for not taking care of myself, and worse, for dragging my sister into my stupid mess. Liu Ruyan tried to defend me. It's not my brother's fault. I'm the one who wanted to go. My rebellious self thought she was just acting, and with a totally careless look on my face, I sneered. It's not like I begged you to get me a sister. Why the hell should I babysit her? I'm a kid too, why don't you take care of me? Do you even remember you're my dad? Unsurprisingly, I caught the beating of a lifetime. While I was lying in bed, stewing in my own angst, Liu Ruyan didn't even get mad at what I'd said. Instead, she came over and gently explained, "Brother, don't be mad at Dad. He actually really cares about you. Your dad is always going to be your dad. No matter how much he likes me, it's just on the surface. I could never replace you. Don't worry, okay?" My dad normally spoiled Liu Ruyan so much that it constantly made me look like the ultimate failure of a son. So even though she never actually did anything wrong, whenever I thought about the double standard my dad had for us, I'd push her away and build a wall between us. I couldn't help but feel completely resentful of her. I never expected this little kid to comfort me, and I definitely didn't expect her to read my mind like that. I was shocked, but mostly just deeply ashamed. I glared at her viciously and snapped, "You came into my house and stole my dad. Do you think you're some kind of winner? You think you can stand there like a champion and act all magnanimous in front of me? Stay the hell away from me. You'll always be an outsider in this house." Liu Ruyan gave me this utterly heartbreaking look, then turned around and walked away without a word. It took me a long time to finally realize how toxic I'd been in. I was terrified of being the outsider, so I made sure she felt just as terrified as I did. After that day, my feelings toward Liu Ruyan started to subtly shift. Before, no matter how much she hovered around me, clinging to me to play with her, or bringing me all the best snacks and toys, because she thought of me first, and shared half with me, I was totally stone cold. Because my dad treated her mom so well, I figured her being nice to me was just her paying rent. I even thought it was her sneaky way of stealing my spot in the family. Definitely nothing to be grateful for. When I was 20, I got into a rushed relationship in college. We were only together for 10 days, and she managed to cheat on me 3 separate times. Honestly, kind of impressive. In the middle of the night, overwhelmed by sheer furious grief, I called Liu Ruyan to vent. I ended up falling asleep mid-rant. When I woke up, my roommate told me my sister was waiting downstairs. The second I ran out of the dorm building, right there in the blindingly bright sunlight, I saw her slender silhouette. I was just about to run over, throw my arm around her and crack a joke to show off my coping skills, when she pointed a finger straight at me. With a heartbroken look, she stopped me in my tracks. "Who told you you were allowed to date?" I told her. Everyone in my dorm was dating. I wanted to date too. She took a deep breath and said, "If you wanted to date, you should have told me. What good would telling you do?" Before the words could even leave my mouth, she suddenly threw herself in my arms and hugged me tight. It was like a fog had suddenly lifted, revealing the truth. I could hear my own heart pounding completely out of rhythm. My face was burning up. Back then, I was so dense that I didn't even realize Liu Ruyan had a crush on me. I just realized that I was absolutely down bad for her. It was literally just one hug, but my brain had already fast-forwarded to marriage and kids. Afterward, I tried to comfort myself with logic. I'm young and full of testosterone. A red-blooded guy like me. How could I possibly control my intrusive thoughts? Liu Ruyan and I went through 3 whole months of good morning, good afternoon, and good night texts before we finally ripped off the band-aid and made it official. That day, I looked Liu Ruyan dead in the eye and laid down the rules. The family can never find out, but your friends need to know that I'm your boyfriend. Because honestly, Liu Ruyan was way too cute. She constantly had dudes lining up to hit on her. During the 2 years we were together, she loved me so intensely. She always actually listened to my unhinged thoughts, went foodie hunting with me all over town, and tried every crazy new thing I wanted to do. And whenever we had some downtime, sharing all the cute little moments of her life with me. But I never dared to fantasize about our future. I didn't even let her test the waters. Until one day, I bumped into Liu Ruyan's trust fund colleague, confessing his feelings to her. That's when it finally hit me. I realized exactly what my underlying panic was all about. Liu Ruyan, she deserved a better future and a better guy, instead of being tied down to me. That evening, I walked alone by the river, letting the wind hit my face for a long time, before I finally made up my mind. Just forget it. Gee, Boda, don't ruin her. She's such an amazing girl. You're only going to drag her down. Don't forget, you're still technically her brother. The road ahead for you two is only going to get rougher. It's been so long, and you've never had the guts to make your relationship publical. Aren't you just scared? I didn't even get my own mindset. I couldn't just break up normally. I had to completely trash our relationship, tear apart everything beautiful we had, spitting out all sorts of vicious, nasty things just to hurt her. Gee, Boda, please, don't break up with me, okay? I can quit my job and find a new one. That way I'll never have to see him again. The way Liu Ruyan begged me with those red, teary eyes made me feel so insanely guilty. I couldn't even make a sound. I really am such a piece of trash, I thought to myself, in despair. But I refused to show even a hint of weakness on my face. After the breakup, I was doing terrible. Whenever I was overwhelmed and anxious for missing her so much, when the pain was unbearable, I'd just chain-smoke cigarette after cigarette, but it didn't do a damn thing to numb the depression. So I turned to alcohol. I'm allergic to alcohol. Getting drunk didn't put me to sleep. It just made things worse. So itchy and painful. But honestly, I felt like the physical pain on my skin somehow eased the agony in my chest. Because of that, I took up boxing and became an underground fighter. Every time I got beat to a pulp in the ring, or when I was beating the life out of someone else, my brain would instantly just quiet down. It was like a void was finally filled. I wasn't being tortured over and over again by all those chaotic thoughts. Whenever I reached that point, I felt a peace I hadn't known in ages. Everything just went back to what it was supposed to be. They didn't spiral out of control anymore, stopping those endless negative flashbacks. I never let Liu Ruyan know about anything I went through. She asked me, "You really aren't afraid of pain, are you? What's the point of this?" I thought to myself, at least physical pain is tolerable. So I guess I really am not afraid of pain. My first night back home, I slept terribly. I dreamed of so many chaotic and painful flashbacks. My mind felt wide awake. But no matter how hard I struggled, I couldn't wake up. I ended up sleeping for over 10 hours. Yet I still woke up, feeling completely drained. My stepmom asked if I wasn't feeling well. While scratching frantically at my chest, I replied, "Just had a little to drink last night. It's nothing." As soon as the words left my mouth, Liu Ruyan put down her phone and walked right over to me. After getting close, she grabbed my shoulders, leaned in, and sniffed. In an instant, her face flushed red, looking like she literally wanted to murder me. She demanded, "Why did you drink? Do you want to die?" My stomach started churning violently. I didn't even have time to answer. I just scrambled to the bathroom. By the time I came back out, Liu Ruyan was gone. My stepmom handed me a glass of warm water and cautiously probed, "Boda, did you and your sister get into a fight? You two are acting really weird." "No, we didn't," I replied. 10 minutes later, Liu Ruyan ran back in from outside, completely out of breath. Right in front of my stepmom, she dragged me into her room and slammed the door shut behind us. My heart was pounding out of my chest. I growled, "What is your problem?" Liu Ruyan shoved me down onto the bed, leaving no room for argument. "Take off your clothes." I almost thought I heard her wrong. Half angry, half amused, I said, "What for? This is super inappropriate, right? We're literally at home." She didn't waste any breath arguing. She just reached out and yanked my shirt off. The scars on my chest were exposed to the air, along with patches of bumpy red hives. Some spots were scratched totally raw. Liu Ruyan's eyes filled with sorrow. Her voice sounded completely defeated as she said, "Gee, Boda, Why can't you ever change? You know you're allergic. Why would you drink? Why do you treat your body like this? I'd known her for so many years, but I had never seen her look at anyone with such utter helplessness. That look made me feel incredibly pathetic, but it also gave me a tiny sliver of warmth. While Liu Rian was rubbing ointment on me, we heard a key turning in the lock outside. The next second, the door flew open. Jiboda, what the hell are you doing now? My expensive booze. And you drank it all by yourself. Does coming home really make you suffer that much? My dad stormed in, his face beet red, holding 2 empty liquor bottles. He kept yelling, "Why are your clothes off? And what's with that massive scar? What are all these red rashes? Don't tell me you caught some nasty disease out there." In this house, Liu Ruyan was the only one who knew I was allergic to alcohol, and that drinking gave me hives. My dad couldn't care less about stuff like that. All he ever cared about was whether I was obedient enough. My stepmom followed him into the room. Her sharp eyes darted between me and Liu Ruyan, like she was searching for some kind of crack in our story. I looked at them, completely unfazed. "Yeah, you guys better stay away from me. Wouldn't want you to catch it." My dad flew into a rage. He raised his hand high to hit me. Liu Rian stepped in front of me and explained, "He's not sick. It's an allergic reaction. I'm putting ointment on him." How did he get an allergic reaction? My stepmom softened her voice to play peacemaker. "It's the new year. You father and son should just have a heart-to-heart. Stop talking to each other like you're loading a gun. Your dad isn't upset about the liquor. He's upset about you. Hiding in your room drinking alone at your age. You're treating us like outsiders." I was speechless, a heart-to-heart. From the second I got home yesterday, my dad had been picking on everything I did. Everything he said implied I was a total letdown. How much other people's kids make a month. What they bought for their family. It was all just to brand me as an ungrateful brat. He didn't want to hear what I had to say. He just wanted me to get on my knees and apologize. He ranted, "Jiboda, that little pump. If he were even half as sensible as Yanyan, I wouldn't have to worry so much. No career. Garbage attitude. I just want him to come home for New Year's. And I, his father, have to practically beg him on my hands and knees. What kind of miserable life is this? I waited on his mom for half my life, and now I have to wait on him. It's a curse." The words I accidentally overheard walking past his study last night echoed in my ears again. He kept going, drinking, fighting. "What the hell have you been doing out there? Am I gonna have to visit you in prison next time?" I smirked, stood up, and said, "Who knows? Might be the morgue." I threw on my shirt and walked out without looking back. I was done looking at their judgmental faces. My dad roared behind me, "Jiboda, what kind of attitude is that? Stop right there. If you leave, I'll break your legs." It felt like whenever my stepmom was around, my dad suddenly had to prove his masculinity. He absolutely couldn't allow his authority as the man of the house to be disrespected. When I was a kid, I didn't get that, and got beat up for it more times than I can count. I was even hung up in the yard for public humiliation once. But now, I wasn't afraid. Once you realize someone isn't worth caring about anymore, you really stop giving a damn about the consequences. Seeking approval. Family ties? It was all absolute bullshit. The moment I walked out, the bone-chilling wind hit me from all sides. I stood in the empty snow, still not fully recovered from the rage I was feeling, when I saw Liu Ruyan running out after me. She was wearing a black puffer jacket, half of her face buried in the thick, fluffy collar. All I could see were those cool, striking eyes. In her arms, she was hugging a Patrick Star hot water bottle. That totally didn't match her vibe. She walked up to me, handed me the hot water bottle, and said flatly, "Let's go home and take your meds." I shook my head quickly. "No. Liu Ruyan, come somewhere with me." I drove for hours to get there. The sun was setting, twilight closing in. Liu Ruyan and I sat in front of a grave in the cemetery. It was incredibly quiet. Not a soul in sight, just a sweeping view of uneven, perfectly aligned rows of tombstones. I let out a soft laugh and said, "I told my mom everything, even the part about us being together." Liu Ruyan's nose was completely red from the cold, giving her this rare dorky kind of cuteness. She turned her head to look at me, her eyelashes fluttering. "So why exactly did you break up with me?" she asked. "Why did we break up?" Pride and love tearing each other apart. Reality and dreams moving in opposite directions. I was caught in the crossfire day and night, never finding peace. Finally, I just surrendered. What was even more pathetic was that I couldn't even say this reason out loud. I love her, but I'm terrified to be with her. Loving her meant I was terrified of hurting her. So I just said, I don't see a future with you. Might as well stop wasting our time. I just want an easy life. I looked at her calmly. Please like video. She didn't say anything back. She just silently turned her head and glanced at my mom's tombstone. I kept going, you know what? Back in the day, to marry my dad, my mom cut off her entire family. She gave that love 100. But in less than 3 years, they were completely sick of each other. And in the end, it was your mom who, effortlessly, got from my dad exactly what my mom begged for her whole life, but never got. His gentleness and his devotion to the family. I looked off into the distance and let out a long sigh. I'm terrified you'll end up like my mom, and I'm terrified I'll turn into my dad. I had never admitted this to anyone. When I was a kid, I hated my mom for being selfish, for leaving me all alone and choosing death. But as I grew up and saw more of the fake and real, the good and bad of this world, I slowly started to understand a tiny bit of her pain. On the drive home, I rested my head against the car window, spacing out as I watched the scenery blur by. While we were stopped at a red light, a hand suddenly grabbed mine, holding on tight. She said, "Let's get married." It wasn't a question. It was a statement. For a split second, it felt like a tiny, sharp needle had pierced the most sensitive nerve in my heart. I yanked my hand away, like a cat whose tail just got stepped on, and snapped, "Are you crazy?" In a flash of panic, I remembered my lie, and quickly added, "I have a girlfriend." Liu Ruyan's expression went blank. She stared coldly straight ahead, her eyebrows knit together. The vibe in the car was dead silent and awkward. I turned my body away from her, my mind an absolute mess. If someone was willing to risk it all, and stubbornly choose me no matter what, I don't think I could handle it. But that kind of luck isn't something just anyone gets to have. Or maybe, if I were confident enough to be emotionally stable, I'd be willing to gamble on it. But I knew all too well I wasn't. I never have been. That night, I was out on the balcony blowing smoke. Outside, the city lights were glowing. Through the glass, you could see families sitting together, chatting and having a good time. Out of nowhere, my stepmom walked up next to me. Her usually gentle face looked dead serious. "Boda, can we talk?" I instantly got a bad feeling about this. My stepmom knew. She's always been way more suspicious than my dad. She said, "I set up a blind date for your sister. The guy has a PhD from studying abroad, just like Yanyan. He's been a high achiever since he was a kid, a quick learner. Now he's got a successful career, a house, and a car. But what I love most about him is his family background. Highly educated, harmonious parents. A guy who grows up in an environment like that is emotionally stable. He's ambitious and, more importantly, responsible." She really was a smart woman. With just one sentence, she hit my weak spot with brutal accuracy, especially the phrase emotionally stable. That dealt massive emotional damage. In that moment, she didn't even have to say it straight out. I was 100% sure she knew about us. Did she ask Liu Ruyan? Did Liu Ruyan admit it? I silently took a step back into the shadows, hoping the shame and embarrassment on my face wouldn't be so obvious. My stepmom kept venting, "Such a great guy. What a rare catch, right? But Liu Ruyan refuses to go meet him. Boda, could you help me figure something out?" After taking a deep drag of my cigarette, I forced myself to keep my emotions in check and asked calmly, "What exactly do you want me to figure out?" She patted my hand gently and said, "Just help me talk some sense into her. You guys are both at the age to get married." I silently repeated her words in my head. Such a great guy. At the age to get married. I suddenly really wanted to laugh. "I have a boyfriend." A familiar voice came from behind me. I turned around and met Liu Ruyan's resentful glare. She walked up next to me, casually tossed the Patrick Star hot water bottle at me, and then stared at my stepmom, emphasizing every word. "He's going to marry me soon, and I won't marry anyone but him." The air literally froze. After a long pause, My stepmom gave me a fake smile and looked at me. Boda, do you know your sister's boyfriend? I don't know him. With almost zero hesitation, I instantly made my choice. My stepmom let out a huge sigh of relief and cracked her first genuine smile of the night. You guys chat, I'm gonna go cut up some fruit. When it was just me and Liu Ruyan left alone, neither of us said a word. We both just stared off into space in different directions. Finally, my phone ringing broke the silence. The person on the other end said, Boda, miss me. It was way too quiet around us. So, the second the call connected, the voice, on the other end, was easily heard by Liu Ruyan. I clearly saw her freeze, for a second. I replied, I did. The second I said that, Liu Ruyan bolted, walking away fast like something was chasing her. Watching her walk away, the emotions I'd been holding back all night couldn't be repressed anymore. If she had just turned around right then, she would have seen right through my fake act. My heart was already a complete wreck inside. But I still had to put up a front just to protect my fragile ego. If this were the old me, I wouldn't have had the patience to talk to the person on the phone for this long. But tonight was different. Too many unexplainable emotions were growing wildly in my heart like weeds. I needed someone to talk to, even if it was a topic I couldn't care less about. Right before hanging up, the person suddenly said super seriously, Boda, I really hate New Year's. I replied, what a coincidence. Me too. I walked back inside from the balcony. My stepmom was holding a plate of fruit. She got close, all gossipy, and said, so our Boda has a girlfriend now. When are you gonna bring her home for us to meet? I brushed it off. No rush. I made up some random excuse, headed out by myself, and went to a BBQ joint. Surrounded by smoke, I drank a ton of booze and ate a bunch of food, trying to use it to fill the massive hole in my chest. I wanted to numb all my senses. Too bad it barely worked. Halfway through, when I was going to the bathroom, I accidentally tripped over something and rolled my ankle. Suddenly, a hand grabbed my arm to steady me. Careful, under the dim lights. I saw Liu Ruyan's concerned face. My emotional defenses instantly shattered. Riding the buzz, I hugged her tight. The bitterness just poured out of me silently, like a giant balloon. Finally, popping under too much pressure, Liu Ruyan hugged me back, just as fiercely, absorbing all my chaotic emotions. A second later, I couldn't hold myself up anymore, and just completely collapsed. In a daze, I reached into my pocket, pulled out a key, and mumbled an address. The person next to me asked softly, where is this? Half conscious, I muttered, home. Our home. That night, I don't know if it was because she was there, but I slept incredibly well. In my dream, I turned into SpongeBob. I asked Patrick, why are you called Patrick Star? He looked at me seriously and answered, because I'm the big ape sent by God to keep you company. Such, but this actually happened when we were kids. So it hit me right in the feels. When I woke up, it was 10 a.m. the next day. I rubbed my throbbing head, looking around the room. I thought to myself, oh crap, I brought her here when I was wasted yesterday. She even wiped me down, carefully applied my ointment, and whenever I got itchy and wanted to scratch, she gently rubbed my skin to ease the discomfort. The second I walked out of the bedroom, my heart completely settled. In the open concept kitchen, Liu Ruyan was super focused on prepping food. Sunlight spilled in through the window, perfectly highlighting her side profile. Everything felt so incredibly beautiful. I barely even dared to breathe, terrified of ruining the moment. I don't know how much time passed. Liu Ruyan suddenly turned around. When she saw me, she seriously reminded me, "Eye boogers." That phrase instantly shattered all my romantic fantasies. I gritted my teeth and glared at her. "You have them too." Liu Ruyan nodded solemnly, turned back to her cooking, and said, "Whatever. I love how you look, no matter what. Are you grossed out by me?" Wait, she was flirting with me. During the 2 years we were together, she was always a very quiet, reserved girl. I was always the one talking a big game. Every time I saw her blushing red face, I felt super satisfied. After getting washed up, I sat at the dining table waiting to be fed. As Liu Ruyan grabbed the silverware, she casually dropped a bomb. "You cuddled me to sleep last night. Won't your girlfriend get mad if she finds out?" My body stiffened, cuddled her to sleep. What did you do to me? Liu Ruyan stopped what she was doing and didn't say a word. She just gave me this super wronged, innocent look, silently judging me for being a heartless jerk. I swallowed hard and asked guiltily, "Did I do something to you?" She flashed a sly smile and blinked those big sparkly eyes at me. In that instant, I felt like we were right back in our honeymoon phase. The next second, she asked, "Gee Boda, where are we?" I scratched my head. I had no choice but to feed her porridge while coming clean. Our future house. Or rather, the house I bought to leave for you. Her pupils shrank slightly. She asked, "How long have you been planning this for?" I smiled bitterly. A long time, I guess. If we're talking about when it started, probably the day we first got together. But it wasn't some grand master plan. It wasn't premeditated. It was literally just an impulse. I've asked myself a million times, and even up until today, I still don't totally get my own motives. It was almost like giving myself a fake safety net, like prepping my own fancy urn or something. I didn't dare look at her as I kept my head down and drank my porridge. It was so hot that swallowing it practically scorched my entire heart. Jiboda. She crouched down right next to me, at eye level. "It's not that you don't love me, is it?" I don't know if it was just in my head, but her voice sounded like she was choking back tears. Just as I was about to get up and leave the table, she grabbed my hand lightning fast, stood up, and pulled me into a tight hug. She said, "You're just punishing yourself. You just don't know how to forgive yourself. I'll stay with you. I'll help you get through this. And then you'll come back to me." I said, "Liu Ruyan, don't put yourself through this." It took a long time before I heard my own raspy voice. If you blamed me or hated me, I'd honestly feel a lot better. But the one thing I can't handle is seeing you like this. She was clearly hurting too, but she was still putting me first. Love really is just willingly walking into a trap over and over again. Liu Ruyan said, "Don't give up on me," I replied. "Liu Ruyan, I am not giving up on you. I gave up on myself. It's like I'm incapable of holding on to anything beautiful. For the past 20-something years, I've just been losing things. Lost my mom, lost my dad, lost my friends, lost my pride, lost trust. I've even lost myself." She cut me off and said, "Then I'll be the one who never gives up on you, for a really long time." My mind was completely blank. My body, without me even realizing it, was shaking uncontrollably. By the time I finally found my voice, she had already gotten on her tiptoes and kissed me. It was incredibly gentle, yet somehow absolute, like a fierce promise to never back down. Before I could even find my logic, my body had already answered for me. On that bright winter day, the sun generously gave its warmth to chase away the cold. I stood at the intersection, watching the crowds of people come and go, like a lost ship in the middle of the ocean unable to find a lighthouse, completely losing its sense of direction. Logic rarely stands a chance against emotion. I wanted Liu Ruyan. I could lie to her, but I couldn't lie to my own heart. All that intimacy happened so naturally. It felt so meant to be. Our mutual craving for each other collided and became totally unstoppable. G Boda, no matter what messes you have to face, you have to remember, I'm right by your side to face them with you, but only if you'll let me. Caught up in the moment, Liu Ruyan stared into my eyes and said every single word with absolute certainty. In that instant, it was like lightning slicing through the fog. The path ahead suddenly felt crystal clear. I felt completely at peace. But now that the passion had cooled off, layers of anxiety came rushing back. The vibe shifted again. When the inevitable collateral damage hits, how are we supposed to clean up the mess? Could I actually protect Liu Ruyan? The negative voices in my head started taking over again. I couldn't stop spiraling. A million chaotic thoughts were scrambling my brain, like hundreds of songs playing all at once in my head. Suddenly, Liu Ruyan linked her arm tightly through mine. In a split second, a single, powerful melody drowned out all the static. All those messy, chaotic noises instantly fell into order, wrapping around that main melody and building into a brand new symphony. It all merged into a steady rhythm, completely calming my inner storm. She said, "It's a green light. Let's go." I nodded and said, "Okay." No backing down. Full speed ahead. Maybe this is the actual power of love. I made a silent promise to myself. Liu Ruyan. No matter how this ends, no matter what it costs, as long as you're by my side, I'm riding this out to the bitter end. When we got home, my stepmom was messing with her potted plant seed. The second she saw us, her expression immediately went on high alert. She asked, "Where did you go? Why are you coming back together?" I cut in before Liu Ruyan could speak. We were out all night doing karaoke with some friends. My stepmom raised an eyebrow and scrutinized Liu Ruyan. "What time did you sneak out last night? Why didn't I hear anything?" Liu Ruyan played it cool. "I did go to karaoke. I even threw up." My stepmom eyed us suspiciously. For a few seconds before going back to her plancy, Liu Ruyan and I both retreated to our respective rooms. A few minutes later, I got a text from Liu Ruyan. "Did you take care of that so-called girlfriend of yours yet?" I replied. "Damn, coming in hot with the hostility. There's no girlfriend. I literally just pulled her out of thin air to make you jealous. The person who called me last night was just a clinic buddy. We met at my therapist's office. His condition is way worse than mine, so he's always trying to give me advice like some wise elder. After a while, we kind of built this trauma bond." I purposely didn't drop the word depression. I just casually downplayed the whole thing. Liu Ruyan let out a sigh of relief and texted back, "Jiboda, after we broke up, I thought about things a lot, and I remembered a bunch of little details I never paid attention to before, like how sometimes you'd just go totally silent, or you'd sit alone stressing out over nothing, or how you'd wake up randomly in the middle of the night in a panic, and I was always just too dense to realize what was actually wrong. I never really thought about the real-world stuff we'd have to face in the future. Every day, I just naively thought being with you was the happiest thing ever. But what I want to tell you now is, as long as you don't break up with me, no matter what hits us, we can hold hands and get through it together." My hands were shaking as I tried to type back, but my vision was so blurry, I couldn't even read the tiny letters on the screen. It took me a long time to finally pull myself together. Then I brought up the giant elephant in the room. "Did you tell your mom about us?" Liu Ruyan replied, "No. She must have figured something out on her own." During dinner, my stepmom's eyes kept darting back and forth between me and Liu Ruyan. I held back as much as I could, forcing myself to finish a bowl of rice. Before this, it had been a long time since I could stomach a full meal. At 9 p.m., my stepmom suddenly knocked on my door. "Jiboda, I bought you a train ticket for New Year's Day." She handed me the ticket, her gentle expression masking an absolute iron grip. I dug my nails into my palms and asked, "If I say no, are you going to snitch to my dad?" "Yes," she answered without missing a beat. We were both playing dumb while knowing exactly what was up. Like, as long as we didn't rip off the Band-Aid, we could just pretend none of this was happening. After I took the ticket, she didn't say another word, just turned around and left. The door clicked shut, not too loud, not too soft. I sat there in my quiet room, suffocated by this massive wave of anxiety. My dad always thought I loved turning the house upside down. But the truth is, my whole life, the last thing I ever wanted was family drama. But surprisingly, the next few days passed incredibly peacefully. It was like everyone was locked into this unspoken truce, keeping up a polite, fake harmony with extreme restraint, probably just wanting to get through the New Year's holiday without a blow-up. On New Year's Eve, Liu Ruyan and I went to the riverbank to watch the fireworks. Brilliant, dazzling explosions lit up the sky one after another. The river silently watched from below, hoarding all that beauty for itself. At midnight, Liu Ruyan hugged me gently. "Boda, Happy New Year." All around us, couples were hugging and wishing each other well. We blended right in with the crowd. So ordinary, yet so different. Suddenly, tears welled up in my eyes. "Liu Ruyan, Happy New Year." After the fireworks ended, I put my arm around Liu Ruyan's shoulder, smiling like a little kid. "Let's go home." She nodded, instantly, knowing exactly which home I meant. The second we got out of the car in the parking garage, Liu Ruyan already seemed a little anxious. I completely understood that mix of panic and the thrill of getting something back, because I felt it too. I literally wanted to grab onto her every single second of the day, just to prove this was real. making out as we unlocked the door. We were like a boiling pot of water. But, the second the door swung open, all that heat instantly evaporated. My stepmom was sitting in the pitch-black living room, staring silently at us in the dark, like a predator we strike. "Mom!" Liu Ruyan called out to her, her voice trembling. A sharp, loud slap rang out through the air. It sounded jarringly loud in the quiet night. Liu Ruyan's head was turned slightly to the side, 2 bloody fingernail scratches visible on her left cheek. But my stepmom, the one who actually threw the slap, looked like she had taken a way harder hit than Liu Ruyan. Her whole body was shaking. She couldn't even form a complete sentence. "Do you guys have any idea?" I stepped forward, protectively shielding Liu Ruyan behind me, my heart aching. "Mom, I'm going to be with Ruyan, and not just as her brother. If you're mad about it, you can hit me." My stepmom totally ignored me. She just kept glaring at Liu Ruyan, like she was trying to see right through her. "Liu Ruyan, tell me, what's the point of a man like him? He can't even take care of himself. All these years he's achieved absolutely nothing. He's been a son all these years. Has he ever given me a single dime for my retirement? What can he even do besides cause trouble? You have such a bright future ahead of you. He's literally your brother. Why do you insist on doing something that will have people gossiping behind your back? Do you have any idea that you are my pride and joy? If you end up with him, you're basically killing me." Facing such intense, blunt questions, my heart just completely sank. Everything she was saying was exactly what kept me up at night. Would this really be good for Ruyan? Liu Ruyan could see right through my hesitation. She grabbed my hand, interlocking her fingers tightly with mine. Her hand was freezing, just as cold as mine, like 2 blocks of ice, stiff but locked together solidly. She said, "But he's the only one who makes my life feel like it has meaning." Liu Ruyan faced her furious mother, every single word unwavering, each sentence landing with absolute certainty. "Mom, I'm sorry." The air instantly turned to ice, choking the life out of everyone in the room from all sides. It took a really, really long time before we finally broke free from that suffocation. I don't know what happened to my stepmom, but she had finally calmed down from her rage. Her eyes were filled with sorrow and exhaustion. "Ji Boda, I really don't like you. Could you please just not ruin my daughter's life?" I furrowed my brows. In an instant, a bitter feeling gripped my entire body. The pain spread to my very core. Liu Ruyan broke the terrifying silence. She said, "When it comes to me and Ji Boda, I'm the one who can't live without him." I took a deep breath. That grand symphony started playing in my head again. All my scattered thoughts finally aligned. I said, completely calm but resolute, "Honestly, I've never liked you either. Since we're laying all our cards on the table, I'll just be blunt. I've always felt that you took over the house my mother left behind and stole my father. You've never worked a single day in your life, and you've been living off my family's money. Yet you've never even looked me in the eye. You can look down on anyone you want, but you have absolutely no right to look down on me in my own house." Her eyes went wide. She stood there completely frozen. For a long time she couldn't make a sound. Finally, my stepmom gave a dismissive little laugh and said, "If you guys don't want this family anymore, then I don't want it either." We all understood the weight of those words. There was no turning back now. Everything was going to be dragged out into the light. I glanced over at Liu Ruyan, thinking, "Liu Ruyan, am I really worth you going these lengths? I'm so terrified that one day you'll snap out of it and tell me you regret this. That would be more cruel than actually killing me." It was the start of the new year, a time for fresh beginnings. But our house was completely tense, like a battlefield. My stepmom hogged one entire couch to herself. My dad sat meekly on the smaller sofa next to her. Liu Ruyan and I stood in front of the coffee table, looking like criminals, waiting to be interrogated. The "Peace Brings Prosperity" plaque hung high on the wall. Feeling incredibly ironic right now. For the longest time, I had been absolutely terrified of my dad finding out about this. Not because I was afraid he'd object, but because I was afraid his reaction would turn my last desperate hope for a family into a total joke. I wasn't afraid of things getting ugly, but I was terrified of being stabbed in the back by my own flesh and blood. And I was even more afraid of making Liu Ruyan go through all of this with me. After a long silence, my stepmom suddenly sat up straight and glared viciously at my dad. Are you mute? Say something. My dad kept his head down, coughed, and offered an apologetic smile. It's the kids' business. Just let them figure it out themselves. I literally couldn't believe my ears. Was he actually defending me? What the hell is that supposed to mean? My stepmom jumped up, her eyes red as she glared at my dad. You have a son, so you don't have to worry about him being taken advantage of, huh? You really think you've got this all figured out, don't you? Liu Ruyan squeezed my hand and said, Mom, look what year it is. There's no such thing as being taken advantage of. My stepmom whipped around and pointed right at me. Liu Ruyan, snap out of it. He's not good enough for you. A guy like him is never going to amount to anything. Whoever marries him is going to be miserable for the rest of their life. A lot of times, the things people say when they're absolutely furious are exactly what they truly think deep down. They just usually use their logic to sugarcoat it and make it sound like something else. In her eyes, even after living with me for over 10 years, that was exactly how she saw me. And honestly, all these years, I hadn't been actively trying to make Liu Ruyan give up on it. I wanted to kill off that tiny sliver of hope inside me. But in this moment, all those negative, passive thoughts, all that background noise didn't hold me back for even a second. It was completely replaced by total calm. It felt exactly like being back in the ring, taking a brutal hit to the gut from my opponent. But instead of pain, I just saw the world with perfect clarity. Just as I was about to fire back, an angry roar erupted. Bullshit! My dad suddenly stood up, his chest heaving heavily. Shen Hongxia, when we got married, we had a deal. I treat you well, and you treat my son like he's your own. Look at you now. Are those even human words coming out of your mouth? What's wrong with a man like my son? He hasn't taken a single dime from this family since college. Why? Because he was terrified of making you unhappy. He doesn't have a mom, and he doesn't even like me, his own dad. All these years, the only person who's been there for him is Liu Ruyan. Of course he caught feelings for her. It's completely normal. Let me tell you right now, if they want to be together, I support them 100%. My dad was just going off, spitting out sentence after sentence. His voice was booming and loud. It was like he'd been holding this in for ages. And right now he wanted to make sure everyone heard him loud and clear. I just stared blankly at what was happening in front of me. Did I hear that right? Were those actual tears welling up in his eyes? Was he seriously defending me? My stepmom was just as in shock as I was. She looked at my dad in sheer terror, her whole body swaying. After a long pause, she finally wailed, His mom was a psycho. Do you think I don't know? Your son is gonna end up a psycho sooner or later too. Shut the hell up. My dad cut her off sharply. My stepmom collapsed heavily onto the couch. Her hands clenched together as she gasped for air. You could tell she was fighting with everything she had to control her rage. Dad, I asked softly, was my mom really? Before I could even finish, my dad frantically shook his head. None of that is true. Your mom was just really disappointed with her life. It was just depression. You know how much of it was my fault. My horrible temper. It was all my fault. Depression? I thought to myself, so was my depression genetic? Or is it like my stepmom said? Am I really going to turn into a psycho too? Honestly, if they knew how often I completely broke down over the smallest things, spawning all these terrifying intrusive thoughts during those long dark nights, they'd probably already think I was a psycho. The first wave of the fight started to die down, and everyone fell silent again. Liu Ruyan was holding my hand the entire time, not loosening her grip for a single second, but her palms were completely soaked in cold, clammy sweat. Suddenly, I came up with a perfect description for what we were doing right now. A suicide mission. The second wave of the fight was started by me. I pulled a stack of stuff out of my suitcase and handed it to my dad. There were insurance policies, a property deed, and bank cards. There was also a photo album filled with pictures of her and me from every stage of our lives. The album was so worn out from me, constantly flipping through it, that it really showed its age. I even added careful little notes to a bunch of the pictures, explaining exactly what was happening in that moment. I looked back at Liu Ruyan and said, Dad, I want to marry Liu Ruyan. All these years, I've been relying on. I paused for a second, then continued, my side hustles, and I've saved up a lot of money. Honestly, I was prepping all of this for Yan Yan anyway. Liu Ruyan looked at me with completely red eyes. The hand holding mine was shaking slightly, but it was also slowly starting to warm up. She didn't move an inch. It was like she was terrified that if she made one wrong move, it would just make everything infinitely worse. Other than when I was in the ring, I've never felt as absolutely certain as I did today. Totally fearless and unapologetic. After my dad flipped through everything one by one, he said softly to my stepmom, "Just let the kids do what they want." My stepmom ignored him. She just stared silently at Liu Ruyan for a good while. When she saw that Liu Ruyan wasn't backing down at all, she completely lost it and swept everything off the coffee table. She screamed at my dad, "Divorce. We're getting a divorce right now. If you dare let them be together, you can kiss this family goodbye." Before my dad could even react, and before I could argue back, Liu Ruyan actually spoke up first. "Since when have you ever cared about this family? Just because I haven't said anything all these years. Did you really think I just forgot? Have you seriously deluded yourself into thinking you've been playing the perfect mother?" She paused, then emphasized every single word, no matter how small the thing was. "I remember everything you've ever done." She suddenly yanked my hand, pulling me right out the front door. The way she walked out without looking back was so incredibly cold. But I know the truth isn't what it seems on the surface. She's just really good at faking it. The hand holding mine was actually shaking like crazy. The moment we walked out of the neighborhood, Liu Ruyan suddenly threw her arms around me. She buried her face in my chest, breathing heavily and fast. I knew she was completely heartbroken. She said, "At a time like this, I can't back down. If I back down, you'll have even less of a leg to stand on." Every single word hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. I was so moved, but it also broke my heart. So this is what it feels like to be chosen this fiercely. So even a guy like me could actually meet someone who chooses me without a second thought. "Liu Ruyan, the better you treat me, the more terrified I am that you'll regret it later." The second the words left my mouth, I regretted it. Why do I always, subconsciously, jump straight to the most negative scenario? The problem between us has really been me all along, hasn't it? The streets were bustling, kids were playing around. There was a lion dance performance going on, and the New Year vibe was super strong. Liu Ruyan looked dead into my eyes. "Boda, I love you so much. You are the most important person in my life. If you can't accept that right now, then I'll just say it again when we're old." Beneath all the emotion, I just felt kind of lost. "Liu Ruyan, why? Why me? I honestly don't know what's so good about me that makes me so important to you." I couldn't see my own worth. That's why in this relationship, I've always been so insecure, constantly terrified of losing her. Liu Ruyan gave a somewhat sad smile. "Because you're the only one who makes me feel like this world is safe." I asked, "Only me?" She answered, "Yes, only you." That night, we lay in bed and talked for a long time. It was like we were trying to make up for the entire 6 months we were apart. Eventually, I don't even remember how I fell asleep. I just vaguely recall Liu Ruyan saying, "Everyone is only responsible for their own life. As for the choices other people make, that's out of our control." I'm gonna talk to my mom one last time. When I woke up, Liu Ruyan was gone. There was breakfast on the table, and a sticky note, "Don't forget to eat breakfast." I'm meeting my mom to try and find a win-win solution. Wait for me to get back. I glanced at my watch. It was already 12 p.m. Liu Ruyan still wasn't back. She just texted me saying something came up, and told me not to wait up. I had a creeping bad feeling about this. I immediately dialed her number. No answer. Called my dad. Same thing. No answer. After thinking for a minute, I gritted my teeth and called my stepmom. It actually connected right away. A cold sneer came through the line. "You don't even come home anymore." A grown man hiding behind my daughter and using her as a shield. "You're pretty slick, aren't you?" I practically jumped up, grabbed my stuff, and bolted out the door. I said as I ran, "Just wait, I'm coming over right now." Once I got to the neighborhood, I looked at that familiar front door and felt a wave of bitterness. Why does coming back to this house always feel so suffocating? Aren't homes supposed to be a safe haven? I suddenly understood what Liu Ruyan meant. "Only you." make me feel like this world is safe. Deep down, we had both accepted the fact that we were kids without a home. The living room was completely empty. It was just my dad, sitting alone on the couch, looking heavily burdened and smoking. There was no sign of my stepmom or Liu Ruyan. I asked nervously, "Where's Liu Ruyan?" My dad gave me a loaded look, patted the empty spot next to him, and motioned for me to sit. "Our family is a pretty massive failure, isn't it?" he suddenly said after I obediently sat down. The vibe got incredibly heavy. I twitched my lips into a stiff smile, not really wanting to answer that. He continued, You never tell me anything. And I'm not sensitive or detail-oriented. Like Liu Ruyan's mom. Whatever. I won't pry anymore. You're a grown man now. It's too late for me to try and control you anyway. Just do whatever you want. Ever since I was a kid, my dad's motto was spare the rod, spoil the child. He had literally never spoken to me like this before. After a long silence, I replied, "Okay." His cloudy eyes looked like they were welling up with tears. He opened his mouth a few times before he finally managed to say, "Go check on Liu Ruyan in the attic. Both of you are just out to punish me." The second I heard that, I didn't waste another second. I sprinted up to the attic, my heart hammering out of my chest. Up in the attic, the door to the storage room was locked with a heavy black padlock. Faint rustling sounds kept coming from inside. My stepmom was slumped by the door. Her tears and hair were plastered all over her face. She looked like an absolute wreck. When she saw me, she asked in a trembling, tragic voice, "You know Liu Ruyan has severe claustrophobia, right?" I didn't. Liu Ruyan never mentioned it to me. My stepmom frowned, as if she suddenly remembered something. Her dry red eyes welled up with tears again. Back when her dad died of illness, I was out of town stocking up on inventory with my business partner. When I got back, the whole apartment reeked. The kid and the corpse were locked in that tiny room for 3 days. Ever since then, Liu Ruyan has been terrified of enclosed spaces, terrified of the dark, terrified of bad smells. Today, she came to me. I told her she had to stay in the storage room for 12 hours. Before I'd talk to her, she actually went in. She sniffled, her voice so hoarse it was barely a whisper. She continued, "I thought it would scare her off. Why the hell did she actually go in it?" I squatted down, trying to hear her more clearly. She suddenly grabbed my hand. "Boda, listen to me. Blood relatives can't be torn apart. But husband and wife are different. There are so many hurdles you'll face in this lifetime. One wrong step, and you'll turn into bitter enemies. Listen to me, just break up with Liu Ruyan, please." I tried hard to process what she was saying. Looking at her state, I felt an indescribable kind of awful. A moment later, I squeezed her hand back and said, "I used to think giving up on Liu Ruyan was for her own good too. That's why I initiated the breakup. But that's not the reality. She needs me desperately, and need her desperately too." A clear thud came from inside the room, followed by the faint sound of 2 muffled gasps. I gritted my teeth and forced myself to speak slowly, to let out everything that was in my heart. "I'm not as bad as you make me out to be. I just have low EQ. I'm just bad with words. I can change. Truth is, Liu Ruyan and I both crave a family. Not this stitched-together patchwork family, but a complete family of our very own. Liu Ruyan has her guard up so high, it's insanely hard for her to open up to anyone in this life. But with me, at least she can say whatever is on her mind. She can let her guard down however she wants. And it's the same for me, other than Liu Ruyan. I can't let my walls down for anyone else. I am going to be with Liu Ruyan, no matter how you try to stop me. I won't give up. When you only give yourself one choice, and you're willing to risk absolutely everything, you actually stop overthinking." I looked at her with unwavering determination, waiting for my stepmom's answer. My stepmom's gaze drifted off into the void for a long time. She finally said faintly, "What demands could I possibly make of you two? I just wanted you to take an easier path." Then she shook her head and muttered bitterly, "If you two really get together, you'll have people pointing fingers at you for the rest of your lives. I merely got a divorce. And look at how the people from your hometown ridiculed me. Gossip can literally drown a person. I don't want my daughter living a life like that. It's so hard being a woman." She was so direct and straightforward. She didn't use any fake emotional blackmail or moral high ground on me. Instead, she told me clearly, that she just didn't want her daughter to live that kind of life. If my mom were still alive, would she worry about my future like this too? Prioritizing how I felt. Too bad there are no what-ifs. In this world, the only person who will ever prioritize my feelings is Liu Ruyan. I can't let a person like her go. Thinking about this, my gaze grew even firmer. I said, I'm going to be with her. Whether you like it or not. Whether all those people out there like it or not. We are going to be together. No one knows when this life will end, and I don't want to waste it. My stepmom didn't respond to me. Instead, she shakily grabbed the handrail and went downstairs. I pressed my ear to the door and yelled Lu Ruyan several times, but got no response. I was anxious as hell, pacing like crazy. The lock was too heavy-duty. I couldn't pry it open or kick it down, and making too much noise might just terrify Lu Ruyan even more. When I heard another muffled, suppressed groan from inside, I completely lost my ability to think rationally. I dashed out to the rooftop terrace. On the far right outer corner of the rooftop, clinging to the wall, there was a narrow ledge used for drainage. Following it would lead right to the storage room window. I took a few deep breaths, steeled my resolve, imagined I was stepping into the boxing ring, and suppressed the panic rising in my chest. I gathered my courage, hopped over the rooftop railing, and stepped onto the narrow ledge. The first time I looked down, I broke out in a cold sweat. My calves turned to jelly. A 3-story drop, with 0 safety nets. It felt like the wind resistance had suddenly tripled, like it could blow me right off. My mind started spiraling again. But, in a split second, I pictured Lu Ruyan's face. That little shadow who was always stuck to my side, calling me brother. The girl who was trembling uncontrollably, but still gripped my hand so tight. The one who faced her deepest fears all by herself, just for me. The symphony in my head aligned again. I gritted my teeth and shimmied across, step by step. That adrenaline rush of putting my life on the line slowly drowned out the fear. 77 steps later, I finally reached the window. Looking in from the outside, the room was pitch black. The faint light from the window barely illuminated a single floor tile. I slid the window up and climbed in as carefully and quietly as possible, terrified of scaring the person hiding in the dark, completely consumed by panic. Once I was inside, it took me a second to catch my breath and actually feel the ground under my feet. I was honestly shocked by my own reckless impulse. I muttered to myself, "Gee Boda, honestly, mad props to you. If you had fallen, your epitaph would literally just say, died a total simp." But is it really just me being a simp? No, it's just that she's the only one worth risking it all for. Totally fearless. Liu Ruyan. I slowly felt my way to the light switch by the door, but I hesitated to flip it. The next second, I heard a faint rustle from deep in the corner. I instantly flicked on the light. The darkness was swallowed up. Light flooded the room, and in a tiny gap between a pile of junk, I saw Liu Ruyan, eyes squeezed shut, hugging her knees and shivering violently. I rushed over and pulled her tightly into my arms. I kept rubbing her back. "Don't be scared. I'm here. We'll face this together. I'm never leaving you alone again." I only found out today that Liu Ruyan had such severe trauma of her own. But even so, she still used the warmest part of her heart to comfort me and stay by my side. The girl in my arms kept whimpering like a wounded little animal. I patiently coaxed her. I don't know how much time passed, but she finally dared to open her eyes. "How did you get in here?" Her tears instantly broke like a dam. I held her tight, both of us crying too hard to speak. She hugged me back fiercely and said, "I told you, as long as you don't break up with me, I can do absolutely anything." We heard the sound of the lock clicking outside. The person unlocking it was probably panicking, because it took a while for the door to actually open. When my stepmom saw me standing in the room, she looked absolutely shocked. "How did you get in here?" She glanced at the window and seemed to put the pieces together. She looked even more horrified. "Are you insane? Do you have a death wish?" I told her, emphasizing every single word. "I want Lu Ruyan." A flash of pity crossed my stepmom's eyes. She turned her head away and choked out, "Let's go downstairs." Once again, the four of us sat in the living room for a standoff. The intense agitation from earlier was gone from everyone's faces. We were all as silent as statues. After what felt like forever, Liu Ruyan was the first to break the silence. Mom, do you agree to let Boda and me get married? My stepmom looked down and wiped her eyes. Then she looked up at me with a bitter smile. Boda, about your depression. When were you planning on telling Liu Ruyan? In an instant, I felt this overwhelming naked shame. Feeling everyone's probing eyes on me, I subconsciously tried to force a smile, to cover up my utter panic. But my face was so stiff that I don't even want to know how ridiculous my smile looked. Boda, Liu Ruyan, squeezed my hand tighter. I looked at Liu Ruyan, completely lost. I wanted to explain, but I didn't even know where to start. When I have an episode, I have zero dignity left. I'm like a hysterical, cornered animal. I fight off the negative emotions by hurting others and hurting myself. I didn't want her to see me like that. I was terrified that one day I'd look in her eyes and see disgust. My stepmom reached behind a couch cushion and pulled out a thick stack of my medical records. She threw them onto the coffee table. My voice went hoarse as I demanded, "You went through my stuff." My stepmom glared right back at me. "You're trying to ruin my daughter's life. So what if I went through your stuff? From the second you got home, I knew something was off between you and Liu Ruyan. I was planning on snooping back then. I'm just mad I didn't do it sooner, letting you string my daughter along for so long. You have severe clinical depression, and you still want to drag my daughter down with you." My dad reached for the medical records with shaking hands. I shot up from my seat, snatching them up first and clutching them to my chest. What's the point of looking at them now, when Mom died and I needed someone to talk to? When I actually needed a father? Where were you? You just got me a new mom instead. After I finished screaming, I realized my emotions were right on the edge of a total meltdown. I didn't know what Liu Ruyan was going to think of me, but I knew I couldn't stay here another second. Otherwise, I'd spiral right back into that black hole, fighting a life or death battle with an invisible monster. And then everyone would see me at my absolute ugliest. I needed to find a quiet corner first, to put this massive weight down, so I could actually think and talk calmly. I patted the back of Liu Ruyan's hand, signaling that I needed to step out and cool off. Then I walked straight out of the neighborhood, thinking about the future. It was just so exhausting, dragging me into her future whether I liked it or not. Liu Ruyan, aren't you exhausted too? After wandering around for a while, I walked into a bar. I had just sat down when someone slid into the seat across from me. She said, "Patrick Star is the starfish god sent to keep SpongeBob company." She smiled and added, "And Liu Ruyan is G Boda's star." I gently rubbed my temples. A rush of warmth flooded my chest. After a moment I gave a raspy laugh and said, "Patrick and SpongeBob are just best friends. So can Liu Ruyan and G Boda just be best friends too?" Liu Ruyan lowered her eyes, stared at my hand and said, "Don't mess with me right now. I'll literally cry." That sentence stunned me for a really long time. Growing up, I had never seen Liu Ruyan shed a single tear. Would she actually cry? I remembered back in middle school, she hit me with the most arrogant flex. "I'm way too pretty. What could possibly be worth crying over?" Thinking about it now, her childhood memories must have really traumatized her deeply. The drinks arrived. Liu Ruyan, who never drank, started downing drinks, but completely banned me from touching any. Before long, she had finished a glass of beer. She stood up unsteadily and headed for the bathroom. I quietly followed her, worried something might happen. Right as we got to the door, she suddenly turned around, grabbed my hand, and dragged me inside with her. Liu Ruyan pressed her back against the wall, hooked her left arm around mine, stared at me with bloodshot eyes, and said, "So what if it's depression? I don't believe for a second that I can't pull you out of it." I said, "There are so many people who try to save someone, only to get dragged down into the abyss themselves." Liu Ruyan, I'm terrified. All my walls completely crumbled in that moment. My confusion and fear were entirely exposed. She let out a soft scoff, and then gently wrapped her arms around me. Tears fell silently. She said, "I'm just a glutton for punishment. I'm gonna torment you and be tormented by you until we're old and gray. What are you gonna do about it?" I froze. I couldn't utter a single word. Torment each other until we're old and gray. Liu Ruan, I'm holding you to that. She went on, Jiboda. My mom gave me the household register. She told me it's my choice. The arms hugging me squeezed even tighter. Let's get married. I hugged her back fiercely. No, pick a different spot. We can't lock in our forever. In a freaking bathroom. Liu Ruyan broke into a smile through her tears. Then next time you better find a good place and propose to me. Deal. I'll buy you a massive diamond ring. Liu Ruyan said, Ji Boda. If you're sick from now on, you have to tell me. We face it together. I said with absolute certainty, Liu Ruyan, I'm not afraid of anything anymore. I know I can make it out of this. You are my light. I realize I only get one life to live. I don't want to constantly second-guess everything. I don't want to be held back by fear anymore. I want to be brave. I want to do the things I actually want to do, and become the person I want to be. I want to charge toward the future with the person I love. We're in this together.